Hello, welcome back to another episode of Mums on a Mission. I am your host, Julie Hatch, and I'm glad that you're here joining me today because I'm going to be talking about something that is present in all of our lives, our kids' lives, our lives, and it's not going away. And it's technology. And I'm going to talk about technology and whether it is helpful or harmful to our kids' lives. And cut right to the chase, I'm going to say both. I think that it's both helpful and harmful, and I'll go into why I'm saying that. And I'll finish up with some ideas of how we can make the best of technology and help our kids with it, so they don't get eaten up by their screen time and by technology around them. First of all, I'll talk about Generation Z, which is also considered the I generation. We're born 1997 to 2012. And right in the middle of that generation is when the first iPhone came out, which was in 2007. Can't believe it was not that long ago. But anyways, so this generation, Gen Z, was raised with iPhones, with the internet and technology. And so everybody born after that, so everybody born from 2007 on, were born with phones in their hands pretty much, or in their back pockets. So it's just a way of life for them. And personally, I think that they've adapted a lot better to it than I have. They know how to work things so much better than I do. But it's because it's really almost part of their DNA. They are wired and tapped for technology, internet, and screens, things like that. So yeah, technology is not going away anywhere, and it shouldn't go anywhere. We don't want to move backwards, I don't think. Maybe some people would like life to be simpler, but it's not going to happen. It's meant to make our lives easier and more efficient. And in fact, sometimes it makes life more complicated. But it's not going away. And we need to help our kids learn how to have a healthy relationship with their devices and their time on the internet. One of the problems I think that people see of technology and screen time is the addictiveness of it. Things are being on social media, being on games, being on the internet is really very addictive. Constant scrolling through, playing the game and going to the next level and the next level and the next level and continue winning. And it feeds into a loop that we just want more and more and more. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason why it's hard to put your phone down and stop playing or stop engaging. And it's because of this chemical in our brain called dopamine. And dopamine is a feel-good neurotransmitter. And I've written a book that's going to be coming out in a few months, and I'm going to just read a little bit about, I talk about disconnection of kids, and part of the reason is because of social media and technology. So in terms of social media, we all know what it's like to get a like to something that we post. The egoic thrill of getting a follower and then another and then another. Something that seems almost chemical happens to our brains when we receive these affirmations, even if they're only virtually. In fact, there is a chemical buzz that happens when things are going well on social media. The chemical dopamine is released into our brain every time we get a like or a heart in response to a social media post. Dopamine is a Kim Kardashian of neurotransmitters. Somebody has put it that way, which I like. It makes us feel great. It is released by the same part of the brain that causes a coke addict to salivate at the sight of a bag of cocaine. Truly, the same center of the brain that responds to feel-good drugs like cocaine and a lot of other ones are the same parts of the brain that the dopamine hits when we are on social media and get positive hits. Facebook and other social media platforms depend on our, and even more so on our kids, craving for this next dopamine hit. In Silicon Valley, dopamine is the key ingredient that makes an app, a video game, or a social platform lucrative and profitable. Our kids' brains are being used for corporate success. Sean Parker, the 38-year-old founding president of Facebook, has admitted that Facebook was not really intended to unite us. but to distract us. Hence the capitalization of our dopamine addiction. Get a like, receive a hit of dopamine. It's a social validation feedback loop that exploits a human vulnerability. The need to be liked and accepted is our human vulnerability. It's natural, it's part of being human. And children and adolescents are especially vulnerable to this validation feedback loop. So it's dopamine. It's a chemical thing. When we're playing and we're engaging and things are going great, it just happens. There's nothing we can do about it. The dopamine automatically gets released and hits our brain and makes us want more and more and more. It's a fact. It is addictive, no doubt. So when we get positive hits, then the screen that we're engaging with gets more engagement from us, more likes, more interaction, more, just like addiction is. But a lot of what we're seeing on social media certainly is falsehood. Images that are enhanced, maybe making people look beautiful and happy and like life is great and they have so many friends, and from the outside, from us looking from our side of the screen, it looks great, but it's not real. And a lot of what is on Facebook and Instagram just is not necessarily real. And so in the long run, when you're talking about Facebook, a child or a kid or a teen sitting in front of his computer could have 1,000 Facebook friends, but you still feel completely alone and isolated. So there's a connection in a certain way, but there's a big disconnection in another way. And in fact, as I quoted Sean Parker, the founding president rather of Facebook, saying that it's meant really to distract us more than unite us. He also was quoted as saying, God only knows what it's doing to our children's brains. So I think that even he knew, the guy who invented Facebook, knew that it was not good for kids' brains. Now, as our kids are getting more distracted with social media, more engagement with the internet, they are falling into the hands of corporate America. The algorithms used to learn about us as people, meaning also our kids, who they are, what they like, where they like to hang out, what they will buy, who they are. It's almost like they get into their heads because of the algorithms of what you click on and what you scroll through, and it's constantly feeding corporate America, the businesses that are advertising and looking at this, is telling them what we like. So you could think of it as they're getting into our brains and they're manipulating our brains, but they're not manipulating. They just want to know what our brains like, because the bottom line is money. Bottom line is the dollar. They want more business. They want to make more money, and they're doing that by figuring out what people that are on the internet, and especially social media, what they like and what they're engaging with. And then that's what they promote and they sell. In fact, you probably notice it when you are shopping for something online, then you go to Facebook or Google or something like that, and what you've just been shopping for pops up. So that's because they know what you want and what you're interested in, what you're all about. Our kids' time online is money for these companies. They're not trying to hijack our brains and make us think other things than what we would normally be thinking. They just want to get us to buy more of their product. So I think that it's not, as some people are really paranoid, thinking that people are spying on us. And in a way, I suppose that they are, but it's not really spying. They're just looking to see what you like. If you're going to engage, you are going to let the businesses know what you like and what you're about. So I don't think that they're really getting into our brains and hijacking our brains, but they are getting into our pocketbooks. And that's corporate America. That's what happens. And I think if we can be aware of that and make our kids aware of that, then we're ahead of the game. So the dopamine hits that we get when we're playing game or engaging in social media, those dopamine hits or the dopamine is really, well, it's triggering off our feel-good part of our brain, it is the key ingredient that makes an app or a video game or a social platform lucrative and profitable for businesses. And again, just be aware of it. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that, as long as we're aware and we can decide what we want to engage in and what we don't want to engage in. Another problem, though, that I do see with social media is, especially when it comes to kids and especially teens, and even more especially teenage girls, I believe, is the way that comparisons happen online when you're looking at what other people are doing on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever it may be. You're comparing. It's normal to compare yourself. Wow, they look really good, or they look really happy, or oh, she's gotten fat, whatever it may be. We're always comparing ourselves. And the problem with that with teens is that so this is all falseness. And as an adult, we may be aware that it's all false projection of people enhancing their pictures and making themselves look like what they want to look like, but it was not actual reality. But any preteen or teen who is the least bit insecure, which are most of them, are anxious or obsessed with how they appear to friends and other people, they are susceptible to really negative effects of this comparison on social media. Feelings, it brings on feelings of that they're not matching up, they're not good enough, they feel badly about themselves, and it keeps going and going and going. And so a child that is still developing their sense of self and their identity may not benefit from being on certain social media platforms. Yeah, it can certainly lead to more anxiety and depression. On the other hand, technology has certainly kept us connected. I think has pretty much saved us through the COVID pandemic and quarantine and the shutdown, schools shut down, businesses shut down. And it's better, but it's not over. And so I think that absolutely technology and social media has kept us connected, has kept schools going, for better or worse, and has kept kids in touch with their friends. And again, with teens, it's super important for them to be connected with their friends. Their peer groups are the foundation of their existence practically in high school, in adolescence. So social media and technology has helped us to stay in touch. Think about Google and YouTube. How often you go on and Google something or check out how to change your tire or something on YouTube. YouTube has endless amounts of information, as does Google. And that's all because of the internet. And those are, I can't imagine life without Google, to be honest with you. So it's a great thing. Families and friends and coworkers are accessible whenever we want to reach out and talk with somebody. They are accessible anytime, anywhere, no matter where in the world they are. And it's a way of naturally bringing us closer together, just being able to turn on a screen and be able to see. And again, during the pandemic, I know that when I couldn't go visit my mother in the assisted living place she was in, the only way we could connect with her and see her was by Zoom. And we did that for a year. And it was, I mean, thank goodness, otherwise I wouldn't have seen anything about her or heard about her at all for a whole year. So I think it's almost a godsend during these days of the pandemic. A lot of parents, I hear, complain about the amount of time that their kids spend on screens. And that certainly is a big consideration, rightly so, because too much time is not a good thing. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And kids now, so there's laptops and there are phones, and now there are the smartwatches. So there are screens, no matter where you are, there are screens attached to people or to their kids or whatever. And there really isn't, you have to make a concerted effort to get away from them. They're everywhere. And so naturally, kids are spending more and more time on them. There is a study done, so talking about too much time. There was a study done. Sometimes you have to watch out for these studies about negative effects on technology and social media and kids. Some of them are poorly done studies. The numbers are wrong, and they bring out false conclusions based on bogus numbers. But anyways, this was a good study done, and it showed that the amount of time on a screen, I'm going to say phone, relates to a child's feeling good or happy with themselves. So kids that spent 40 or more hours a week on their phone, so that's a lot of time, 40 plus hours per week on their phone were very unhappy. Kids that spent 6 to 9 hours per week on their phone, which isn't all that much time, were the happiest. And then there was a group of kids who had no phone, and they were the least happy. And I think that's because they were completely isolated and completely disconnected from their friends. But the point being that, so there's a point between, say, 10 hours a week and 40 hours a week that could be harmful or not so harmful. Probably depends a lot on your child. But 6 to 9 hours per week. So the professionals that I have listened to have said that 1 to 2 hours per day on people up to teenagers. I think teenagers are allowed to have more time than that. But so elementary school, younger kids, 1 to 2 hours a day is all they should be spending. And to me, that sounds like not a whole lot, but that's what the professionals say. And when you get beyond that, when they're on for much more than that per day, it's going to have an effect on their mood, their emotions, anxiety, depression, all kinds of things. So I think that that's really important to know, and something to be aware of is that the amount of time does make a difference, and there is such thing as too much time on the screen. So what do we do? Where does that leave us as parents? What are we supposed to do? So I have 3 things to say to that. And the first is that we need to be involved, actively involved in knowing where our kids are on the internet. Who are they engaging with? What are they looking at? How are they engaging in either social media or online activities? And it's our job as parents. I used to sometimes think that I was being too nosy, but no, there's no such thing as being too nosy. Well, there probably is, but don't worry about being too nosy. You really want to be aware of where your kids are. Absolutely. And if you're the parent of the household, and especially if you're paying for the internet and for the cell phone, then you have the right to. So to be involved with them, and not in a negative way, just know where they are. And if you can, interact with them, maybe play phone games on your phones back and forth with each other, or sit down on the couch and play a video game on the TV or on the computer. Be involved with them in as positive way as you can. But beyond that, just know where they're at, where they are interacting. It's like wanting to know where they are. If they go out and walk around in the city, you want to know where they are and what they're doing. Second thing is, as with everything with parenting, modeling. You want to model not a whole lot of phone use, or if you don't want your child on the phone too much, well, then you're going to have to not be on your phone too much, because it is really doesn't make any sense. And the child would tell you this, for you to be on your phone a whole lot of the time and telling them to be off their phone, that they're on too much. You got to model, you got to practice what you preach. And it's also good for us to be able to take a break from the phone, take a break from all those emails that come in. And yes, a lot of it is business related, work related. You need to respond to emails, but it still can become way, way consuming. And we need to make a conscious effort for ourselves to put the phone and put the internet and the email away for a little while. And then we're in a better position to suggest to your kids to spend a little time away from their phone. I see it a lot I think everybody sees a lot at restaurants, or when families are together, wherever, in restaurants or in public transportation, anything like that. They're all on their phones, especially when I'm talking about at a restaurant and a dinner table. There a lot of times you see families on their phones, and I swear they're texting back and forth across the table, because I think they know how to do that better than how to speak face to face. But that's a problem, and topic for a whole nother session. So put your phone down, ask your child to put their phone down, and interact with them. Model what you want them to do. And then the final thing is, and I've heard many professionals agree on this, there's a lot of stuff that people don't agree on, but this they do agree on. for one thing, the number of hours that younger kids should be allowed on their phone, or which is less than what we might think, but also to come up with your child, agree on a number of hours per day that seems reasonable for them to be on their phone. And chances are that you guys will be somewhere in the same ballpark, so that's workable. And then you have a time budget, phone time budget to work with every day. And probably most importantly is at bedtime, no devices in the bedroom at all. And you may get some argument from your kids, but it really, really makes a difference. A half an hour before bedtime, remove all devices every night, do it consistently, and they'll get used to it. That's just the way it is, because it's really not helpful at all. For one thing, it's not necessary to have a phone in your room at nighttime, but it's not helpful. With kids, they will stay up later. And even just having the screen, the color of the light of the screen anywhere around you, it disrupts your sleep. So, and disrupted sleep. So without a phone or devices in the bedroom, they are more likely to get more hours of sleep and better quality sleep. And that is really important, because a lot of kids and a lot of teens are not getting adequate sleep these days. Not these days, probably for a very, very long time, but phones and devices don't help at all. And interrupted sleep or inadequate sleep, or sleep that does not leave them feeling rested in the morning, is not good sleep, and it's been shown to lead to more levels of anxiety and depression. So sleep is really important for mental health, emotional health, behavioral health. And one easy way to get to some better sleep is to have no devices in the bedroom. Again, I don't think that that's all that complicated, and it's up to the parent to enforce that. And I just think that it goes a long way. So those are the 3 things that we can do. Pay attention to where they are on the internet and who they're engaging with, and be involved. Model what you want them to model back to you, and take the devices away at night. So on that note, I'm going to wrap it up. Feel free to like this podcast. Give me a hit of dopamine. Give me a thumbs up, or encourage people to join in, share it with people, follow me, whatever. And that'd be great. I really appreciate that. Tell other moms about this. Now, next week, I am going to be talking with a mom who has raised 2, well, they're twins, autistic boys. And she's going to tell her story about that, which is really interesting. So stay tuned. And the following episode, which is going to be the final one of 2021, is going to be a calm, feel-good episode. So stay tuned to that. And thanks for listening. I look forward to seeing you next week.